Namaste and greetings sir, to Dr. Anil Kumar Kruthiventi ji. He is an expert in several fields from agri to pharma to also Indic agricultural wisdom. So, in this interview, sir, we would like to ask you questions about the relevance of ancient Indian agricultural wisdom to modern farming in India, and it's how it can be reintroduced, or we can refer to it for making life more healthy and in India today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Aparna ji, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. It's an honor to be on Indic uh, um, channel, I would say. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So, how did your interest in Indian agricultural wisdom start? Could you talk about that brief?
Yeah. See, by training, I am an organic chemist, natural product. That means straight away from the very training, I was associated with plant products. Natural product chemistry means the extraction, isolation, characterization, synthesis of all the products that plant produces, predominantly the small molecules. There's something like, and in fact, 95 to 98% of the lead molecules for all the pharma molecules that we have out there in the market right now in allopathy, right? The origin is plant. You know that, so it sounds as though it's synthetic. The whole of allopathy is all about synthetic drugs and synthetic molecules. But the idea, the design, the structure of the molecule, we call it as a lead molecule in medicinal chemistry, right? Has come from plant. So aspirin, I'll just give you one example. Aspirin has its origin from salicin, which is a natural product, right? So salicin, this plant was being used, which is a willow bark tree. The willow tree, the bark of it, they used to use it for headache. So from there, the concept of they isolated salicin, and after having understood the structure of that molecule, they finally got transformed into acetyl salicylic acid, which is, we now call it as aspirin. Okay, so the origin of most of the molecules that we have is the plant or the nature itself. Nature is the teacher; it's the mother which teaches us everything. There's hardly anything that human does which is not there out in nature around us. So that was a passion which got inbuilt as a part of my training itself. And as I was journeying through, I realized um, the medication, the whole approach of therapy that is right now going on is not being done in the right way. So I will not go in depth into it right now because it will digress our main discussion. So I realized that there was something we should not be doing it the way it is being done right now. We need to look at other paradigms, and we need to also look at preventive healthcare in a more serious manner. In fact, Ayurveda, the whole approach is preventive healthcare rather than curative or palliative. And unfortunately, the concept of curative healthcare and palliative healthcare is so overtaken human mind that preventive healthcare has been sidetracked fully. And for preventive healthcare, it is food, it is nutrition. That is the core of preventive healthcare, right? So if you have like a very in Ayurveda, it is said, I don't have the right Sanskrit quote right now, but it is said if you have a good food, you won't require a medicine, right? And if you have fallen sick, that means your food has been not eaten in a proper way, right? So the cause of disease is directly correlated to the food that is consumed. Of course, we have to go still more deeper into this. Food, according to our ancient scriptures, is not just what we eat through our mouth. It's what we take in through all our five senses. what we see, what we smell, what we hear, what we feel, and then what we eat. So all put together, because food is fundamentally an input to the biological system, right? And Annam Brahma is the fundamental. There are so many aphorisms in our scriptures. Annam Brahmeti Vyajanat, Annadhyeva Khal Vimani Bhuta Nijayante, Anne Najata Nijivanti, Annam Prayanti Visham Vishanti, Tadvignaya. Get to know that Annam is the most important. It itself is Brahman because everything comes from out of Annam, which is food. Everything goes back to food, right? So this is the amount of importance that food has been given in our scriptures. And therefore, as I started looking into preventive healthcare, I realized the back-end integration to health, the industry which has to be really looked into and understood in depth is agri. As I started right away telling you that even allopathy, all of the allopathy medication, most of it has an origin in plant life or plant kingdom, right? Our food is again everything to do with plant. And therefore, that means the agri space is something which forms the uh, ground on which a healthy human life can be really planned. Planning or working on healthcare without giving attention to agri or the way the agriculture is done is looking only at the um, surface and not looking at the roots. It's like constructing a building without having a foundation. Without giving proper foundation, we know what will happen to the building, right? We might construct the most beautiful of the buildings, but then if the foundation is really not strong enough, we know it can't last. And that's what has been happening now. While there's a lot of attention being given to the healthcare platforms, be it allopathy nowadays, even Ayurveda or the phytopharmaceuticals we call now, the combination of Ayurveda and allopathy and other medical systems, all this is growing quite rapidly. Enormous amount of research is being done on human physiology, the cellular pathways, signaling pathways, and how can we deliver a drug. Now robots are going inside, diagnosis, all kinds of things are happening. But then this is all the superstructure. The foundation for it is something that we have. It's something like watering the tree, and uh, if you water the roots, everything else is taken care, right? So that is the correlation that we need to understand, that agri is the root system for healthcare. For a healthy human society, agri is the core. In fact, the I would say the most vital activity for a human existence, for a human society, among all the kinds of activities that we can list, right? Be it industry, be it even in industry, be it textiles and so on, whatever we can list, all the financial, the commerce and everything, of all the activities that human being ever does on this planet, the agri or Krishi. In fact, this is not what I am saying. It has been said in Vedas, it has been said in Krishi Parashara, that if the one vital, most important activity which sustains human civilization, human society is agriculture. So it's that's the kind of importance that our ancients gave to this, right? So that's what made me first look at agri. So there's
So,
the
sir,
first part of the answer.
thank
I've
you.
still not gotten into why ancient, right? Yeah, you
Yeah, so
can go
I
ahead.
thought just let to be to go specifically, could you tell us, like we have Ayurveda as a Indian medical system, Krishi Vidya, is it codified, and what are the texts that refer to it? You say the corpus of the Vedas, but is there anything very specific that we can look at for agriculture? And you also mentioned in another interview that, during the Mahabharata war and in ancient times, there were like so much of surplus of
Yeah,
food.
yeah. Okay.
food and
Yeah,
uh, so much of availability of food. So
yeah, yeah.
what is the, how did it provide solutions for humankind at that time?
Yeah. So there are number of texts referring to agricultural systems in Vedas at various places. Agri and the food, the various crops, all these are mentioned at various places. But there are specific books also which have been written exclusively for the sake of means dealing only with this subject. Like the most famous is Surapala's Vriksha Ayurveda, right? Vriksha, like we have Ayurveda for humans, there's Vriksha Ayurveda too, right? Means the Ayurveda associated with the plants. But this is predominantly the plant protection part. Means when the plant gets into a disease state, what should be done? And how do we diagnose a disease? What the disease is due to? What the cause of the disease, and so on. So that is Surapala's Vriksha Ayurveda is like one of the most important treatises. We have Lokopakaram, we have Manasollasa, we have Bhava Prakash Nighantu, then Chakrapani Mishra's Vishwavallabha, which is a lovely book written somewhere around the 16th century. Then Varahamira's Brihat Samhita. This is written in 500 BC, CE, I would say, means even before the Christ, 500 during that time period, right? So books have been written specifically in Ayurveda, about Ayurveda. But what actually triggered me to really look at all these things, while Riksha Ayurveda was fascinating me initially, but as I was journeying through a question of, see, the even simple common sense also tells us, and having been trained in chemistry, organic chemistry, it becomes even more evident that if I keep on loading the soil with varieties of chemicals, right? Both as crop nutrition, that is fertilizer, and crop protection means all the pesticides put in on the plants finally land up into the soil, right? So we know this, the soil is going to get affected. We know the ecosystem is going to get affected. So I knew it was pretty clear that this is not the way we should be doing the agricultural practices, right? And therefore organic was the way. So when this discussion came up in the business discussions, or be it the research R&D groups, the common thing used to be that this is organic farming is good to have, but it's not viable. It's not commercially viable. So we should not look at it. Then I started wondering, is it really so? Right? Because commonly, what is our understanding, what we are made to believe, unfortunately, is that the population of India was never as much as it is right now. Okay. And now 1.4 billion. So we think, wow, India is heavily populated. And so then I wanted to see, really, is it so that we were a very sparsely populated continent, a subcontinent in the past, and now we have become very highly densely populated. Then went into seeing Mahabharata, because that's one thing which immediately struck my mind, because in Mahabharata numbers are there, fortunately, right? So we can do some back calculation, things like that. So there's a description of Akshohinis in Mahabharata, in the war, the number of Akshohinis that have gone to the war. And the mention is that 11 Akshohinis went on the side of Kauravas and 7 went on the side of Pandavas. So totally 18 Akshohinis went to war. And each Akshohini is a well-defined battalion of uh, the armed forces, right? With well-defined numbers. Like one Akshohini is supposed to have uh, 21,870 chariots, right? And 21,870 elephants, elephant warriors. Not elephant does not mean just elephant alone walking. There's a warrior sitting on top. Then 65,610. That is three times the amount of chariots and elephants. They were horse warriors. And infantry was 1,09,350, means five times the elephants warriors, where the infantry means foot soldiers. Clear? So if we put it together, and I again took a very optimistic or conservative approach. In chariot, I took that there are only one um, charioteer and one warrior. It's only two persons I picked. Maybe there could be more than two. There's a possibility, right? Chariot can take more than two. But to be on, because that's the picturization we see Krishna with Arjuna and one charioteer and one warrior. So maybe that's the way it should be. So I took it as two people there. One elephant will have one person sitting on top. It can be even two there, but again, took it as one. Horse also similarly I've taken as one rather than two. Put together, so we get in the total number of men who have gone to war per Akshohini comes to 2,40,770 members, right? And horses, obviously, chariots will have four or two horses, and anyway, cavalry is also there, which is again a horse driven horse soldiers. So, horse, I did a complete calculation for these 18 Akshohinis. It comes to that 43 lakh 30,260 warriors went to war, 43 lakh and odd. Let's put it easy to for everyone to follow what we are saying, right? About 27 lakh horses went to war. About 3 lakh 93,000, about 4 lakh elephants went to war. Okay. Then again, I took a conservative approach here. I said every member of the army in the defense force, every member of the defense force has gone to war. Let's take it never happens. You know this. Common sense tells us there are number of ground staff, the number of people of the battlefield in the defense forces, right? Who go, only a percentage of defense forces go to war, right? But here I've taken a conservative approach and said, now I've got 43 lakh and odd people, right, who have gone to war. Let me say that this is the total number of people who are there in the defense at that point of time, right? Means every individual who is there in the defense of all the kings put together are, and every member has gone to war. There is not a single member of the defense force sitting in the kingdom. Okay, this is a very conservative approach, right? So 43 lakh and odd the soldiers went to war. Now we know the actual population, the defense population is a fraction of actual population. I'll give you statistics. Presently, India, which is considered to be the second largest army in the world, right, has got only the defense population is only 0.08% of our total population. Though defense right now is such a large number, but in comparison to the population, 1.4 billion, if we now calculate, it comes to 0.08% of Indian population is in the defense force right now. There are statistics from government data itself, right? So I said, okay, let me put it as 0.1. I'll again round it off to a higher number rather than a lower number. And then I said 0.1% at that time, right, is the population of the defense forces as compared to the population that was there in Bharat. Okay. Now you put 0.1 to 43 lakhs. What will you get? 4.33 billion. That's a straightforward thing it is, right? So 4.33 billion was the population of India, Bharat, at that during the Mahabharata period. Okay. This was really, I could not believe this. Have I done correct calculation? Is it the right way to do? Then I saw in Sri Parva, there's a cross reference to this, which actually confirmed that my number and my calculation is not wrong. See, this is, as I told you also, the whole logic, there's nothing wrong in this logic, right? We have gone in a very defined manner. But then I just, well, because this is really shocking to believe that we are 4.4 times the present population, roughly, right? 3.5 times, okay, the present population, which is really huge. So, apart from the elephants and the horses, imagine elephants were in lakhs, horses were in lakhs, and we know cattle were also were in lakhs because we keep reading in the ancient scriptures, stories that king gave away 1 lakh cows as dhanam, charity. That means the cows, the dairy was in lakhs. It was not in some thousands. It was in lakhs or plus lakhs, right? So, and they also have to be fed finally because they're domestic animals, right? Elephants used to be there, horses used to be there. So this was really stunning. So in Stree Parva, Yudhishthira tells that Dhritarashtra, after the war, Dhritarashtra asks Yudhishthira, how many people have lost their lives in the war? And can you believe this number? Dhritarashtra, Yudhishthira says, Dashayutanam Ayutam Sahasrani cha Vimshatihi Kotyascha Shashti cha Shashtaiva Asmin um, uh, Yuddhe Mrutadehaha. That means there are 1.66 billion people lost their lives, more than the present population of India. That's why one of the Western authors who was a little more realistic in giving numbers for Indian, the ancient Indian time, right? You know, normally they don't give the, they're a little biased in their approach, but this author writes the one area, if we really have to identify the one area on this planet which is the most uh, bloodthirsty or filled with blood is Kurukshetra. Even a small square feet of Kurukshetra is filled with hundreds of liters of blood. It's the most, because the war, that's a big war of losing 1.66 billions happened in Kurukshetra. That's why it's Mahabharata. It's a real big war, and that's why Vyasa wanted to write about this war and the cause and after effects of the whole war. Because it's a epochal change. It is a change of a yuga from Dwapara to Kali, right? So this is a kind of loss of lives that has happened during that period. But yes, okay, I think I should answer those also. Immediately people will say Mahabharata at that time was not just India that we talk about now. It was Afghanistan, it was also parts of Bhutan, Burma, the Myanmar, and so on. So then I even looked into that. I said, okay, then what was the arable land at that time versus what was the forest land, forest cover? Okay. The arable land at that time, with all the books that I've got reference to, is somewhere between 20 to 30%. Rest was forest cover. Now we are in the reverse. 51.46% of Indian land is now under agri. Okay. So it is, we have converted more of the forest and forest cover is only 20 and odd percent right now. Rest is all non-arable pasture lands, right? Neither forest nor agri pasture lands there. And then, of course, urban population. So 51% of present day land in India is agri. At that time, 20 and odd percent was agri. So even if the land was large, right, the amount of agriculture done, the fraction of the land that was being utilized for doing the agriculture was much less. So in all probability, the land that we are right now using, the millions of hectares of land that we are right now using in India, maybe the same amount of land was used even in Mahabharata. But they were feeding 4.33 billion mouths, plus all the cattle, plus all the elephant. One elephant is equal to 10 humans, right? Plus all the elephants, plus all the horses, all these were being fed. That means, and one thing that made me really look into this ancient Indian practices, why I thought every Indian should look into it, is because this I was shocked only after, this I realized only after joining agri industries. I realized we are importing all three major nutrients which we say plant requires, be it nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium. For nitrogen, we import natural gas. Natural gas is converted into urea. See, the core of urea, the raw material for urea is natural gas, and natural gas we import. India right now imports. Phosphorus, we don't have any resources in India as per, means there are no DAP phosphorus mines in India. Can you believe this? I want to repeat this. We don't have phosphorus mines in India. We import the whole of DAP that is required for our country right now. We import potassium chloride. It's called as murate of potash in agri terms, right? MOP it is called. That is also being imported. So, in a sense, we are dependent on the rest of the world for our food. Can you believe this? Is it a safe condition that we are in? As a nation, how can we keep silent when every requirement for our agri, we are dependent on the rest of the world?
So how was it in ancient times? How did they manage these three nutrients?
Ah,
Hmm.
so they were never importing any of these nutrients. Natural gas was not in existence at all at that time, means they were not utilizing it. At least there are no books saying that they were utilizing natural gas. DAP and murate of potash was not being imported. India was not importing any fertilizers to do their agri. So obviously they were doing chemical free fertilizer farming. Got it? So chemical free farming. Now this is the answer for everyone who says organic farming is not commercially viable. No, it is commercially viable, more than commercially viable, I will say. Right? Because I would at that time even bartering between kingdoms was not finance, was not money. They used to barter in agricultural goods, be it cotton, be it grains, be it the spices. All agricultural goods were being bartered between between kingdoms, right? For as a part of trade. That means they are producing food for feeding the people of their kingdom. They are using agri alone for doing business too. Okay. So that means what? The whole of organic farming or natural farming, we should call it, was highly efficient. And I will say even now it is, if you follow the right practices, it's highly equally efficient or better, more efficient than chemical farming. Got it?
Yeah,
So,
but sir, why are we importing when when we have why has this idea not been put forth to have these three
so
chemicals
I
be?
think here is where the whole concept of it's a paradigm shift, Amma. What has happened is, see, the way we look at life, our ancients or the Indians look at life, right? Look at the nature. It's a philosophy that guides all our existence is very different compared to Western philosophy. What is the philosophy that guides our life? It's really beautiful, and it's all based on the Vedic thought, the which is a really ennobling thought. The three tenets, I would say, is Ishavasyamiragum sarvam, yat kinchad jagatyam jagat, right? Antar, we can, its various words have been used. Antar bahishcha tat sarva vyapya narayana stitaha, right? So, ekoham bahusyam. You take any, there are so many quotations we can give in Vedas, which say fundamentally our belief is that it is the same divinity which is pervading the whole universe, yet kinchat jagatyam jagat. Even a small atom, the same divinity is pervading, right? At the same time, the Indian mind is so beautiful. It has realized while it is one single unity that is running through this whole universe, there is diversity also. That nature thrives in diversity, creates diversity. No two leaves of a tree are same. They are similar, but they are not same. That is the amount of diversity that nature wants and has, right? So we realize it's like a garland. We realize that there will be varieties of flowers, but there will be one thread which will run through it. That's what Brahma Sutra is all about, right? There is varieties of people. There will be different thinking process. Each one munde matad bhinna, we say. That is a thing that is accepted by us. We say yes, different people think differently, and they should think differently. They should not think in the same way, right? So we have diversity, but there's a unity running across this diversity, right? And therefore, because there is unity running across this diversity, what is the outcome? That we are interconnected. that what I do affects the others, what they do affects me. In turn, what we do affects the society. This is what Bhagavan Satyasai Baba used to say, Vyashti, Samishti, Srushti and Parameshti. 4 steps. Vyashti is individual. Samishti is the society or the community, right? Of humans or of the society, right? That needs to, we are a part of Srushti. See, this is all, it's like, in fact, the whole of Purusha Suktam, what does it say? You are a limb of Virat Purusha. All of us are a part of this nature. We are not separate. At the same time, we are important part of this nature. That also something we have to realize. It may be that we are a tip of the hair of the Virat Purusha, but we still are a tip of the hair of the Virat Purusha, right? If something happens to our hair, the Virat Purusha also will get affected. Clear? And we are taken care properly when we realize that we are connected. So our actions affect the nature. Nature's response is based on our actions was very well understood. And therefore, the way we did farming is we never isolated the farm from nature. This is I will say in one sentence, what ancient Indians did versus what we are doing right now. Ancient Indians realized, just as we are a part of nature, even a farmland, which I am utilizing for producing whatever agri produce, right, is a component of the ecosystem, right? I should not isolate it. Now, Western thinking is, I think this is pretty easy for all of us to understand very well. Western way is, I am separate, right? I need to take care of myself. And therefore, it's all isolation. The way we are leading our life right now, you see, AC is required, air condition. We condition our own room, which is 10 by 10 or 10 by 12 or maybe 20 by 12. Doesn't matter whatever is the dimension, right? It's isolated from the rest of the nature around. Nothing comes in, nothing should come in. Everything is glass windowed and paneled and everything is covered, right? We have our own lighting, we have our own air conditioning. We are not wanting to lead life as a part of the nature. We don't want to see sun, we don't want to see the moon, we don't want to breathe the natural air, we want conditioned air. Everything is, you isolate yourself from nature and lead your lives. That's what is urban life all about, right? And this is, if you really carefully sit back and think, this is the same thought process which is right now got extended to agri. I isolate my farmland from the rest of the ecosystem around. I give the nutrition for it. I give the pesticide for it. I take a produce, right? So what happens if you isolate? Everything has to be continuously, there's no replenishment. I'm not allowing replenishment to happen. I'm killing it right at the beginning. And therefore, present day approach view of life has queued up even agri. And therefore, we think that we have to give input, we will get output, and this has to go on. This cycle has to go on for. We have, but whereas ancients, what they did, very simple logic. That's where we call it as 3 pillars of ancient Indian agricultural practices. I deliberately named it in such a way that I get some abbreviation, acronym, which will be easily remembered. So I called it as diversity as the first pillar, okay, integrated farming as a second pillar, and law of empathy as third pillar. So it becomes as DIL, which is DIL. So you do your farming from your DIL, heart, and not from your head, right? Head is all reasoning. Heart is love, connection, right? So ancients did it from their DIL. They really enjoyed doing it. They did it with their DIL. In the sense, they ensured that the farm also is diverse. They ensured that the farm is a component of the rest of the ecosystem. They didn't separate the farm from the ecosystem. Means the dairy was right next to it, the poultry was right next to it, the forest was right next to it. Okay. So it was a part of nature, and therefore, once everything is right next to it, you don't need to give it N, P, and K separately. Nature has been made such a way beautifully that it knows how to replenish itself. It replenishes nitrogen, it replenishes the phosphorus, it replenishes the potassium, it replenishes every nutrient that is required as a part of its very natural process, right? So if we just allow nature to take care of the farm, we are, it's a double whammy. We are benefited. We don't need to do anything. We get back in return. Yeah. So there was no farming which was done mono. This concept of monoculture, no, means we see acres and acres of paddy or wheat or cotton and any of this. Wheat, any crop for a present day concept is acres and acres of apple orchards, right? Tea plantations, coffee plantations. And so this is a completely Western approach again. Means it's a skewed up approach for the sake of doing commerce. Britishers came. My feeling is there's no record to say that exactly. I can't quote myself from anything, but my understanding is in the if you go back into the history of India, I think Britishers, because of their attention for using Indian soil for their commerce, be it cotton, be it indigo or things like that, they moved forcefully. They moved our farmers away to do monoculture, monocropping as against what they were used to earlier. We forgot that we were used to something else. That much of destruction has happened over this last 200 and odd years. What has happened is we have forgotten that we were never doing monocropping. It's always a combination because diversity has to be there right from farm level. Always intercropping was there. No plant was grown individually. This is what in Chamakam, no, we get Vrihayascha Yavascha Mashaascha Tilascha Mudgascha Halvascha Godhumascha Masurascha Priyamgavascha Navascha Shamakascha Nivarascha. This comes in Yajurveda in Rudram. Namakam and Chamakam, we say the Chamakam part. This is commonly understood as we are asking for all the grains. Actually, I was really surprised when we get into the why they have coupled two things together. Right? When I saw into it, it was actually intercropping. It was beautiful way of conveying intercropping, and so much science is there in intercropping. It is really fascinating. If I get into that, it will go for hours together. It's so much science is there in intercropping that our ancients did. I don't know from where they got this knowledge. See, Kalidasa mentions in Abhignan Shakuntalam, he mentions in Raghuvamsham that a tree was being married by a creeper, right? And only after that marriage is over, you should consume the fruit of the tree, right? And then when I saw what is the tree which was selected and what are the creeper that was selected, fascinating. There's so much science behind it. Really, present day science is um, everything, the whole of present day plant physiology, the chemistry of plant physiology, all that is understood and put into practice, was understood and was put into practice by our ancients. A mango tree was selected, one example, mango with jasmine is the combination that they mentioned, right? Mango, jasmine produces the smell, the compound responsible for the smell, we call it as jasmonates. And jasmonates are actually immune triggering molecules for mango. We call it as induced systemic resistance. So the minute mango plant senses jasmonate, its immune system gets primed up. Okay. So it is better, it becomes a resistant variety for all infections. So you don't need to do any pesticide spray. You are getting one side mango, you are getting other side jasmine. Both can be sold, both can be used, right? So this is the intelligence that our ancients had. They understood the science. I don't know whether they understood the science or maybe they have understood the science. I don't know. That part we don't have any record for us to say yes or no there. But if I now correlate the present day science and understand why a combination has been mentioned there, is there science behind it? You will not believe every combination that we saw while writing this book. We saw that there was science behind every combination. It is really baffling how exactly did they really realize? And the science is so diverse. It's right from this is one example of priming. There's the systemic resistance. the systemic acquired resistance, SAR and ISR, we say. So it's a quite intricate plant physiology topic that has been already utilized there, right? Similarly, semiochemicals, the way insects can be deterred, and the way insects can be made not to come onto a crop. How did they understand that? By taking another plant which produces a kind of smell which deters the pest, the insect. How does it do? How did they realize this? Fascinating, right? Then there's the concept of the host and a predator. They knew that every insect had a predator. It's a cycle in our nature, right? There's no insect which does not have a predator. So the predators host plant, they realize they could identify. I don't know how they identified that, right? And so the host plants of the predator, the pest host predators host plant was intercropped with our main crop. So you don't need to do anything. The main crop is sitting there. The host plant for the predator is sitting there. This pest comes immediately. The predator comes, right?
Hmm.
And the host plant is there. Therefore, that also comes, and both will take care of themselves. And we don't need to do anything. They have their fun, we have our fun, right? So it's such a, and see, that's the reason why there was no eradication of insects. Insects were controlled at
Hmm.
under a certain population. This is also a very fascinating concept, Amma. It's something that a present day, all of us have to understand. See, we, the food that we consume should have the plant, we call it as semiochemicals, which are stress fighting molecules. Okay, these stress fighting molecules that the plant produces, if we consume, our system gets primed up to fight the stress. Please understand this. We think consuming protein, carb, fat, that is oils, and vitamins and minerals is all that we need to do. No, that is only one part of nutrition. There's another very important part of nutrition, which is the stress fighting molecule. Popularly, everybody understands as antioxidants. If I say antioxidants immediately, you will realize this is something
Understood.
that I've heard. Yes, you will. But these are so these are polyphenols. Maybe another way it is put across in popular style is eat colored food, colored vegetables and colored fruits. Right? That means what? These color is because of pigments and molecules which are popularly they are defined as antioxidants, but they have number of roles in our physiology, human physiology. Anti-inflammatory, they interfere, they modulate number of cellular pathways. So they are very important molecules that have to be consumed. But what we have to realize is plants produce these small molecules, which I was just now mentioning as the stress fighting molecules, right? Only when they face stress. So if you
Correct.
grow a plant, a crop,
Without.
without allowing it to face any stress. Means immediately I spray pesticide even before a pest comes. I want to take care that the yield is very high and I don't want any infection to be there. So the farmer, even before the incidence of a pest or insect or a fungus or microbe, he starts spraying.
So is
So
this
what?
similar to how human beings take vaccines, and so we are not able to all kind of you
No,
know,
no, no. They're similar to,
cover-
I thought you would say, most popular understanding. You grow up a child, right? Without
the
allowing
child
the
is
child to
protected
face
and
any stress, right? Will he or she be more resilient in life compared to a child who sees some stress in his or her life? Answer is common sense. All of us know a person who has gone through the rigor of life in his young age, right? Is far more resilient in life, far more successful in life. Yes, exactly same thing with crop also. If a crop does not face stress, okay, I'll give you another simple example.
so
You take
sorry to
a,
interrupt, sir. So, but did the ancients know this aspect of stress in the
yes,
diet? Was it
obviously,
was that adapted in Ayurveda? No, with this knowledge. So, can you name
yes,
some things like would you say that like ginger, tulsi, do they have
yeah.
this
See,
property?
yeah,
Mm.
all of them have that. The whole of Ayurveda is built on the secondary metabolites only. the stress fighting molecules, right? And plants, you should allow plants to produce that. And when you allow the plants to produce that, when you allow the plant to face little bit of stress, so you just the reason I
Conscious.
digressed into this from talking about the pest and predator. So what happens
Mm.
is there is no what should I say, destruction of the pest. Please understand this. We are
Mm.
not eliminating the pest. We are only controlling the pest. There's a lot of difference. Present day pesticide eliminates the pest.
Mm.
Zero. There's no population of pest left. The
Mm.
earlier practice is you allow person below the threshold level, you allow the pest population to exist. So what happens? Some amount of stress is faced by the crop. So in response, the crop produces stress fighting molecules. So what comes out is nutritious crop and not just a high yield crop. That two different things. We look at the size and the look of a fruit or a vegetable. No, we have to actually look at the, see, example I'll give you is a guava grown in a protected condition versus a guava grown growing wild. I'm sure you have experienced this. You eat both of them, you will see which one is more tasty also. Forget about the health aspect. You will clearly see the wild variety is far more tastier, far more enjoyable. The protected variety looks big, looks good. Content is very high, it seems, but it does not have taste itself,
Even
right?
nutrition, for example, somebody from the US came and they took a few fruits and vegetables, even or it was organic, and they sent it to the lab to see whether it has the nutrients that is put on the label.
That's what.
But it
Correct.
did not have any of those nutrients. You
That's
think you
what.
are
So that
eating
means what?
apple and grapefruit.
That means what? The organic was not really truly organic.
Mm.
See, the thing is, we have to allow the plants also, the crop to face some element of stress. Then they produce the stress fighting molecules, and that stress fighting molecules, if we consume, because they have the same physiological role in our body, this is in scientific terms, it's called as heat shock protein pathways conserved. I'm not teaching all that, right?
Mhm.
It's conserved from the plant life to humans, right? So this is the whole concept is called as hormosis. This whole this thing that I so far described. These are all scientific terms, but we don't need to go into that part right now. But the beauty is that this. So the way the crop is grown is that you allow diversity, therefore allows the crop to grow in a healthy manner, right? Each one, there's a root to root association, you know that the
Mm.
crop varieties have been selected in such a way, intercropping varieties, that one root system helps another root system
Mm.
in transferring nutrients, in allowing the root to become even better. So there's a lot of, and say, I'll say simple one thumb rule for intercropping that is there in Vishwavallabha's, this Mishra's Vishwavallabha. He says every deep rooted plant should have a short rooted plant right next to it intercropped. The concept is very beautiful. The reason is a short rooted plant, it will open out the surface soil. So aeration will happen. So the microbial population in the soil becomes better, healthier,
Mm.
right? So if you have only monocrop of deep-rooted plants, the benefit is not there. You have to go and till it regularly.
Mm.
By allowing another crop to grow along with it, is short-rooted, you don't need to till. See, what I realized is ancients had a beautiful idea, a beautiful way of making nature work for them.
Mhm.
They used to really enjoy their life, I would say. They relax. You do the initial part. After that, leave it to nature for it to work its wonders, and you enjoy. Like every farmer had a diary. You must have seen this. Kings used to donate cattle, right? The concept is it's a circular economy. The output of the cattle goes to the farm. The output of the farm means the waste of the farm, I would say, so-called waste, goes to the cattle.
Mm.
So nothing is wasted, right? And cow's dung, if you see, is actually it's a factory. It eats nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, which is a waste, converts it into available form of nitrogen, potassium, calcium, but and nitrogen, potassium, and potassium. Can you believe that? It converts unavailable form into available form and then throws it as dung. So actually, that is the reason why actually, in a sense, no, cow is considered sacred. As I was going through writing this book, I realized that it is considered sacred not only because it gives us nutrition as a part of milk, right? It is considered sacred. I realize it is the only animal which gives out the maximum amount of nitrogen as compared to the amount it consumes. It almost gives out 70 plus odd percent of nitrogen back to soil. It means it consumes only 30%. It utilizes, I will say consumes is not right, but it utilizes 25 to 30% of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. It throws out rest, almost 70 plus odd percent back to soil in a available form. No other animal does this much throwing out, right? So that is why it's a unique animal. It's a factory. That animal's body is actually a factory which takes in unavailable form of all these nutrients, converts into available form and throws it. In addition, gives us milk. It's a very unusual part of creation. Nature, God has created cow specifically with the purpose of, because it does multiple good to humans. We are considering only milk as the output of the cow. No, the dung and the urine is complete fertilizer for the crop because it's so highly available nutrients that are thrown in this process, right? So dairy should be right next to, and now simple concept. Again, common sense. Can we have a main industry and the allied industry separated? Means I have a iron and steel industry or say automobile industry, right? And the small components, be it the screws, the nuts and bolts industry, which are all allied industries, if they are situated far away to the main industry, does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, right? When we build a industry right now, we ensure that the main industry is always having allied industries right next to it. In fact, same within the same compound wall in many cases, right? But when it comes to agri, I don't know why we lost this logic. Agri is main industry, crop, right? Dairy, poultry, sericulture, all these are, and all that kind of cultures are all actually allied industries. They are dependent on agri, on the crop, the field, right? And they in turn give back to the field. A hen, a poultry, hen is one of the very good things which eats up insects. So having a poultry right next to it and allowing the hen and to move around in the farm is a good idea, right? Livestock means our goats. Again, their output is again nutrient. They eat up a lot of weeds. So weed control is done by them, right? So the whole, these have to be allowed to go. That's where I said, no, you should allow farm to be part of nature, not disconnected from nature. Right now, the way we are doing farming is dairy is far away. It's in some other place, in some other state also, in fact, right? I'm doing the crop, the production of in the whole of agriculture in this area. And there's not right and nothing next. That is the reason why, in fact, this is a policy point which I'm really desperately wanting the government to hear this voice, right? That small farmers should be encouraged because this integrated farming can happen only at a small size farms. If I have a 100-acre plot, right, and I do farming, how can I have a dairy, poultry, and all that interacting with the farm? It's not possible, right? So small farmer have, in fact, I would say government has to give the dairy or the cattle to every farmer. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know why this simple common sense has been missed out by governments after governments. See, simple thing, Amma. If we understand, see, farmer suicides, we are saying every government wants to solve that problem. All you do is create a second income for the farmer. The farm gets hit, okay, because of climatic conditions. Dairy at least gives some output for him, right? Poultry at least gives some output for him. So where is the question of why create a binary system for farmer right now? Right now it's a binary system. He has got a produce, he has got money, or he has no money, and therefore leads to farmer suicides. You make a
But
farmer,
was this also introduced during colonialism, where our
yes,
indigenous breeds were totally wiped out, and you brought
indigenous
in?
breeds were wiped out and farming was disconnected
Yeah.
because their approach is all to disconnect and separate each one, and then they think that's how benefit is done. Right? So farmer was not even the knowledge. Right now, farmer doesn't have knowledge of how to do dairy.
Mm.
At that time, every farmer had that knowledge. In fact, I would give you one statistics. Maybe at a later point, I'll give you the reference to Uruguay. It seems every individual has more than 2 cows.
Mm.
Uruguay, right now, a country in
Mm.
South America. And the statistics say that Uruguay, though it's a small country, is one of the largest agricultural producer of South America. See the correlation right away. You just put these two things together. There's huge cow population, and output of agri is highest in the South American continent.
Mhm.
Right? So there's a direct correlation. So if we make farmer, train him or her to get used to manage dairy, poultry, right? Also give them this and convert it from the main industries into this kind of small holdings, right? It will be, we can revive the natural farming in its totality, and farmer will not have any farmer suicides anymore because second income is already being taken care, right? Even intercropping for that matter is a second income. See, if we go with single crop, because of some climatic conditions, the single crop gets destroyed. It's again a binary condition for the farmer. When we go for, if we make him understand that diversity, you go for intercropping. If one crop does not give enough yield, the other crop makes up. At least some yield is going to come from the second crop. Like I'll give you an example. We did one intercropping with bendi, okra, with marigold.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And both grew up very well without any means all these things are not just, I'm not talking after having done this whole research into ancient agricultural practices. We wanted to see whether it's really a reality, all this
Mm.
intercropping that has been mentioned at that in that, is it really
Mm.
translatable to present day life, right? Present day conditions. And
Mm.
yes, so we did few experiments, simple quick ones. Okra marigold is one such example, and you will be really surprised. Both gave fantastic yields. And in fact, the farm at that time got more returns from marigold because the
Mm.
season was Bonalu season. That is in Hyderabad. The flowers are used for doing the puja at that time, right? And marigold flower is used extensively for that.
Mm.
And they got more money out of marigold than okra, vendi. Okay.
So, sir,
So
where did you do these experiments, and
actually, this whole research was supported
how
by
long?
Kapil Group, Kapil Agro. Kapil Group, I'm a consultant to Kapil Group, Kapil Agro.
Okay.
So that is how we started. And so Kapil Farms, we did most of these experiments. And now I'm doing with some private players too. We are continuing this intercropping experimentation. Idea is to generate some model farms. Given a
Mm.
crop, what should be the intercropping? What should be the model plants? See, and also note trees were a part of a farm. Tree is a ecosystem, Amma. If you really sit back and see, tree is a planet in itself. It gives life to so many insects, microorganisms, birds, varieties of things take their shelter there. And you know, the bird droppings again are the nutrition. Birds eat lots of insects. Pesticide control is done naturally. Added to that, the tree itself, because of its deep root, pulls out lots of nutrients from down and then throws it up. Last advantage of tree is they are wind breakers. They are planted in such a way that too much wind on a crop hinders the pollination. So the way they used to plant is have a tree in a border.
Mhm.
and on the direction in which wind used to come. So it blocks the wind,
Yeah.
does not allow too much wind to come, and therefore it's a wind blocker. See, so you use nature only to manage nature. That is
Hmm.
the concept. Very simple, no? It really sounds, after having gone through all this, I realized it's such a common
So
sense
simple.
and so
Hmm.
intelligent way of living life.
Yeah.
Why have we messed it up? Everything now the farmer has to do it himself. Everything, every activity. While nature is willing to do everything, we have
Hmm.
kept nature out.
Hmm.
We don't want you to come in between. That's our attitude, which is very wrong, right? So that's the intercropping gives a second income. Cattle integrated farming means having either a dairy or a sericulture or a poultry or even aquaculture right next to a farm is also going to give a second income. So government, in fact, I'm very passionately getting on to all podcasts and everything possible is because I want
Hmm.
government to listen to this voice and say that we will continue small farming in our country. We will not shift to large scale farming. And we will actually, government should start giving cattle, should start training the farmers to manage a dairy, right? And India will change. Immediately, India will change. I'm telling you, we will go back to our Bharat. The prosperity of Bharat will come back to us because if because we'll have enough resource, enough food available. See, the output of dairy also is food. The output of poultry also is food.
Hmm.
Output of farm also is food. So food production also multiplies. The
Yeah.
farmer is happy, the people are happy, healthy, nutritious food is being produced, and all what without doing too much of effort, with much less effort than what we are right now putting in.
That is true. So, in an earlier interview, you mentioned about nanotechnology and
Mm.
how it actually helps in all these processes. So, can you think of any modern technologies which, in some ways, simulate, the earlier practices with heightened promise?
Yeah, yeah. Means the some of the we went into the formulations that they used to use as so-called fertilizers, right? The way of making them, or even for that matter, I will say the way of making, maybe to make it easy for you all to understand, Ayurveda. Whenever Ayurveda is shown in, I'm sure all of you would have seen. Most of the Ayurvedic companies have this logo, a motor and a pestle,
Correct. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's a very common means that's a correlation in our mind. Ayurveda means water and pestle, right?
Yeah.
But most of the form, this itself is actually this grinding is actually reducing particle size. They were not calling it nanotechnology, but
Mm-hmm.
actually what the Ayurvedic physician is actually doing there is he's grinding the powder. He's already taking a powder and he continues to grind a powder. Means what is he actually doing? In the present day science, if I have to say, is actually making it into a molecular complex that is going into molecular level. I won't say that part. He is making it into at a particle level. He is making it to a nanoparticle, reducing the particle size. Simple. Let's not call it nanoparticle. He is reducing the particle size, right? Similar was the technique that was adopted even for farming, right? Panchagavya is one well-known one. Even the cow dung that was being used directly, dried one, used to be ground and used. Grinding is actually particle size reduction. How did
Mm.
they know this? Was it through empirically arriving at it, or did they understand the science? That's what I said. For that, we don't have a documentation to say whether they have understood the present day science and therefore they did. Whatever be the case, yes, they were utilizing all the so-called present day advanced technologies. Nanotechnology in agri is present day talk it is right now. Last 10, 15 years, it has picked up, and now it is one of the main things in agri. All agri companies in India, everywhere, are thinking about every formulation, every fertilizer, crop protection agent getting converted to nano level so that we can use less and get more, right? So that is the concept that everybody is running after. But this was already being practiced. The fascinating thing is they didn't talk about it as a technology. They just used it straight away, simple. The no, what really fascinated me is the kind of knowledge that has been there in making nature do all our work. Let mother do the work and I'll enjoy. I am a child of mother. Was the approach of our ancients. I think your video is. Am I audible?
Just 1 minute, sir. Just one.
You're not audible.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry,
So,
sir, for a minute I lost you, but yes. So
yes.
you've been part of a lot of research and R&D and innovation and patents also, I think. So do you think that our ancient rishis were never motivated by these concepts of owning knowledge? So how does that change how we approach the knowledge system?
Actually, speaking, these are, I would say, these are to think. See, our concept is what? Yogo jnanam tada sankyam vidya silpadi karmacha vedas shastrana vijnanam etat sarvam janarthana. Right? As a part of our Vishnu Sahasranam, we say this every day. Okay. So what are we saying? We are saying everything has come from the same divinity. Nothing belongs to me. The concept that I own something and I am responsible for this knowledge, right? It has all come from me is a very, very narrow and I would say immature approach. If we really get into maturity, we realize that this knowledge is, we have been, right now, I am only a conduit for this knowledge to be expressed. That's all. It is already there out there, right? And what in nature can we say is our own? See, I'm creating a organic farm. I'm creating a host plant for the predator. Can I say the host plant, the intercropping is my innovation? It's already out there, right? What is it that I
But
have to
sir,
say?
in the face of cultural appropriation and taking of Indian knowledge away from India, not crediting the source, were these practices unique to ancient India, or are there similar things happening in other ancient cultures, indigenous groups?
I would say most of our ancient groups, means ancient civilizations, were more nature friendly. And therefore, I would say that their thinking would have been pretty close to the Indian way of thinking, Bharat way of thinking, right? After industrial revolution, this concept of I, me, myself, right? That I am separate from the rest of the society, separate from nature. I have to take care of myself. This I own something. This has to be protected by me. This whole thing of separation from the rest, right, as a way of living came only after industrial revolution. It wasn't there in this world before that. I am sure every other, though I have not gone in depth into them, every other ancient civilization also realized that we are all interconnected. That societal good only makes me also live in a comfortable way. I cannot be happy all by myself. The society, that is the reason why we say Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Right? Because unless the Loka is happy, you can't be happy. Because we are a part of this local. We are not separate. We are a limb of the society. Society has to be happy, therefore. So therefore, work for the society. It's like a hand being a part of the body. Can the hand say, I'll be happy myself, I'll take care of myself? It cannot, because its food is being given by the rest of the body. All it needs to do is do its part, right? Of whatever activity it has to do, right? That is the understanding that was a part of the ancients' approach. We somehow messed up with that understanding, and that is
So then,
where it has, yeah, that is where the whole of concept of patenting, owning, all that comes in. There's, yes, you need to own to some extent, yes, so that you have your own individuality still left, right? But it is not that it always see what is dharma. Actually, the simplest way I heard in one of the speeches, Bhagwan has said, "What is dharma? Greater good before your own good is dharma. Between your good versus societal good or great family good, something that helps the family versus helps only me. What should you choose? You should choose what is good for the family. Something that helps the nation more than the small community. You should choose what is good for the nation. That's what is dharma all about. Simple way of translating dharma, a very complex concept. Bhagavan made it very clear, very simple. He said anything that is which taking a choice for the greater good versus smaller good is dharma, is a dharmic act, right? So that is the dharma that we followed. We wanted greater good to be always given more preference than individual personal gain. But if individual personal gain is in conjunction, is in consonance with greater gain, nothing like it, fine. Which is most of the cases it will be, right?
sir, as a last question, could I ask you about the details of your book, Krishi in Rooted Wisdom, and where is it
Yeah.
available, and what does it actually discuss? What does it cover?
So this Krishi, the rooted wisdom, is, as the title says, harnessing ancient knowledge for India's agricultural sustainability. That is the tagline below. So see, Vriksha Ayurveda talks only about, as I told you, the disease diagnosis and how do we manage the disease. But it doesn't talk about the how was the agriculture itself practiced during that time. So this is that way a treatise which has put together various components from various books in the ancient literature, right? It has been all brought together in association with the present day science. What we did is we went into science of each of those approaches and saw and also gave references, present day references. These are all reference papers from published scientific literature, which we quoted to say that this is the science behind this type of practice that was being followed. So it's a combination of science, ancient scriptures, Vedas, understanding of plant physiology, quantum physics, of interconnectedness, agri chemistry, all put together in one book, right? So this is available on Amazon. Amazon, it is listed there. So it's a treatise. It's really a very fascinating. I don't think a combination of this in-depth science of plant physiology and biochemistry and chemistry of the systems, along with the ancient Indian knowledge and Vedas, is all in one book. A very, I don't think it's there out there right now in this segment at least. Yeah.
So
So
amazing, sir. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation. So much of learning and value add. I hope, like you said, government, people in
yeah, I
government and
want
policy
they want
makers listen
all,
and take you into their teams to give direction to
yeah,
our food policies.
yes. We should become fertilizer import free India. And
Fantastic.
we can, if we follow our ancients path, we can become that. It's definitely doable.
So amazing, sir. Thank you so
Yeah.
much
Thank
for
you.
this conversation.
Thank you.